Brad Pitt's name has long sounded like a synonym for Hollywood perfection. The looks, the talent, the success, the career, everything seemed flawless. But behind the bright smiles, blockbuster films, and red carpet moments was a story no one wanted to acknowledge. A story of love, lies, and manipulation that stretched across more than 20 years. To understand what truly unfolded between Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, Jennifer Aniston, and Gwyneth Paltrow, we need to go back to the very beginning, to a time when everything still appeared innocent. In 2003, Brad was filming Troy in Europe. Publicly, his marriage to Jennifer Aniston was still portrayed as perfect. In reality, early cracks were already forming. During filming, Brad grew close to actress Rose Byrne. The media brushed it off as a casual set friendship, but behind the scenes, it created a link no one expected. Rose knew Angelina Jolie from early humanitarian work. At that time, none of the three were connected in any obvious way. But that accidental chain would later ignite events that shook Hollywood. Even before Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Brad felt an unusual pull toward Angelina's persona. He wrote about her, not in public, not to friends, but in private letters addressed to a mysterious Hollywood insider. The content of those letters was never revealed, but they were personal, almost prophetic. This is where the first shadow appears. The person receiving those letters later began interfering with Brad's life. When filming with Angelina started in 2004, everything intensified. Their chemistry was undeniable. Jennifer sensed the shift immediately. When Brad and Jennifer officially ended their marriage in 2005, the world assumed it was a straightforward case of a new romance forming. But Jennifer had already received anonymous messages. Not from paparazzi, not from insiders. From the same person who had kept Brad's old letters. Brad and Angelina's relationship quickly turned into a phenomenon. The world adored Brangelina. They traveled, adopted, filmed, and became the most influential couple on the planet. But even during their brightest years, Angelina received strange, unsigned letters. They weren't threats, they were warnings, written by someone who seemed to know their movements, private conversations, and closed-door decisions. Angelina believed Jennifer was trying to sabotage their relationship. This quietly triggered years of hidden tension between them. But the messages weren't coming from Jennifer. They were coming from someone entirely different. As the years passed, cracks appeared in Brad and Angelina's relationship. The breaking point came in 2016 with the infamous plane incident. This is a verified fact. Brad was accused of inappropriate behavior on a flight with one of the children. He was cleared later, but the damage to his reputation was significant. Around that same time, Angelina received a letter that disturbed her more than the incident itself. It contained only one sentence. This started long ago, and you still don't know the whole story. Attached was a photograph from 2003, Brad, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Rose Byrne standing together, and both women holding a charm identical to one Angelina received years later during humanitarian work. It looked like a secret symbol, a sign that tied Brad to certain people long before Angelina knew him. Gwyneth, who had openly admitted that her relationship with Brad in the 90s was chaotic and unresolved, unintentionally fueled Angelina's doubts. By 2019, Brad was glowing again. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, award season, an Oscar win. Everyone thought his life was finally stabilizing, but fate had other plans. Angelina received another anonymous letter paired with the same old photo and the message, "This story isn't over." Jennifer Aniston also became involved again when she received a text from the same unknown number she heard from in 2016. Someone was reviving the past on purpose. In 2021, during the custody battle, Angelina submitted new documents. Publicly, it looked like a continuation of the legal war. Privately, she couldn't tell which information was real and which was planted. Rumors inside her circle suggested that someone was forging internal memos, fueling tension between her and Brad with artificially created evidence. In 2022, the situation reached a peak. When Brad was linked romantically to Inez de Ramon, he himself received a short message, "Not over yet." On the attached USB drive were audio recordings from 2004, featuring Brad, Rose Byrne, and an unknown voice digitally distorted. Jennifer, Gwyneth, and Angelina all received the same recordings soon after. Suddenly, the lives of all four were tied together by a single thread, an invisible hand manipulating them for years. Then came 2023, the year everything finally cracked. An industry archivist, a behind-the-scenes expert hired by Brad's team, traced all the letters, accounts, and data. His investigation pointed to one name, Jon Peters, a real Hollywood producer, known for controversial behavior, secret deals, explosive relationships with stars, and unresolved conflicts. He had worked near Angelina. He had past issues with Jennifer. And he felt deeply betrayed by Brad for turning down a multi-million-dollar project back in 2002. From that moment on, Peters began executing a long-term strategy, not to destroy Brad physically, but to dismantle his relationships and reputation piece by piece. He sent messages to all three women. He forged documents. He manipulated old archives. He staged situations meant to look like insider leaks. And for nearly 2 decades, no one realized they were playing inside his engineered maze. Angelina finally learned the truth in early 2023. It led to her first private meeting with Brad after years of legal battles. A quiet sit-down in Paris, away from cameras. For the first time, they understood that part of their war had been built on lies someone else orchestrated. In 2024, though they didn't reunite romantically, Brad and Angelina became allies against a common enemy. That year, Brad publicly announced a new documentary project exploring hidden manipulation in Hollywood. It sounded like an artistic exploration, but insiders understood it was aimed squarely at Peters. When the project was announced, Peters panicked. He attempted to bury evidence, destroy archives, and erase his tracks. But Brad's team already had what they needed. The breaking blow came when Jennifer Aniston released one of the anonymous letters she had saved for years. It contained a single incriminating sentence: "I control his story, and all of you will make sure he falls." That line destroyed Peters' career. Hollywood studios cut ties. Journalists uncovered years of manipulation. His power vanished almost overnight. And Brad Pitt finally spoke the words he had waited to say for decades: "I got my life back." Yet even with the truth exposed, whispers in Hollywood claim the archivist still holds one more sealed file. A file containing the name of someone else who played a hidden role in the story. Someone Brad doesn't know about. Not yet. But even after Jon Peters' downfall, Hollywood wasn't ready to let the story rest. Rumors began spreading through agents, assistants, and publicists. Whispers about what truly lay inside the archivist's final sealed file. Some claimed it held nothing more than old emails. Others insisted it contained voice recordings, contracts, or forgotten diary entries. But insiders said something else entirely. The file held the identity of a fifth player, someone whose involvement stretched further back than anyone realized. For months, the archivist refused to reveal the name, even to Brad. He believed that exposing the final piece too early would start a scandal larger than the industry could handle. But Hollywood is not a place where secrets survive. And soon, the first clue leaked. It pointed not to an actor, not to a producer, not even to a studio executive, but to a publicist. Someone who had represented multiple A-list clients. Someone who worked with Angelina in her early humanitarian years. Someone who briefly consulted for Jennifer during her divorce. And someone who tried, quietly, secretly, to manage Brad's image during his darkest period. Her name was Mara Lindwell, a highly respected crisis manager known for turning hopeless PR disasters into redemption arcs. Publicly, she was a hero. Privately, the archivist believed she had once been Peters' closest collaborator. According to the leaked documents, Mara had access to confidential recordings, early drafts of interviews, unused magazine quotes, and private emails between Brad and several partners. She also handled unofficial, emotional support consulting for celebrities going through breakups, a service only the most powerful people in Hollywood knew existed. The archivist claimed that Mara used this access to feed Peters information for years. But at some point, their alliance broke. Their cooperation quietly collapsed somewhere between 2018 and 2020, leading to a behind-the-scenes war no one ever talked about publicly. Suddenly, everything became clearer. Some of the messages Angelina received in 2021 sounded too polished, too professional, too much like the work of someone who understood PR psychology, not like the chaotic personal attacks Peters was known for. If these leaks were true, it meant one thing. Peters had not acted alone. He had someone guiding him, someone who understood how to twist narratives with surgical precision. Brad, hearing these rumors, requested a private meeting with the archivist. This time, he didn't come alone. Angelina joined him. So did Jennifer, and even Gwyneth asked to be included through a private call. For the first time in 2 decades, all four stood, or listened, on the same side, seeking answers, united not by friendship, but by survival. They each had pieces of the puzzle, but the archivist had the map. He opened the final file. Inside was a collection of timestamps, transcriptions, and cross-referenced dates. moments where key emotional events had been deliberately influenced from the outside. A positive magazine story killed before publication. A tabloid leak timed to coincide with Brad's movie premiere. A call to Angelina's assistant posing as a legal advisor. A fake email sent to Jennifer from an untraceable server. A fabricated quote attributed to Gwyneth, designed to reignite her old tension with Brad. And at the center of most of these orchestrated events was the same name over and over again, Mara Lindwell. Brad felt the weight of 20 years collapsing on his shoulders. Not only had his relationships been manipulated, but the manipulation had been designed, structured, and maintained by two people working in tandem. Peters was the chaos. Mara was the strategist. Brad took a deep breath. The women in the room exchanged glances. Not angry, not emotional, but tired. Tired of the battles, the lies, the endless public drama. Then the archivist revealed the final shock. Mara Lindwell was planning a book. A secret memoir about the truth of Hollywood love stories. A book rumored to include private stories about Brad, Angelina, Jennifer, Gwyneth, and several other A-list figures. She had already signed a multi-million-dollar publishing deal. The manuscript was nearly done. And Peters? He wasn't out of the picture either. He had already sold rights to his own tell-all documentary, promising exclusive insight into the very stories he helped fabricate. The crisis wasn't over. Brad stood up. For the second time in a year, he had to choose between staying silent or fighting to reclaim his narrative once and for all. He chose to fight. Quietly, without press releases, without social media posts, he began assembling a legal and investigative team, not to attack, but to protect, to ensure the truth, the real truth, wasn't buried under 2 decades of crafted lies. Gwyneth offered her help. Jennifer provided old communications she never deleted. Angelina granted access to her archives, including every anonymous letter ever sent to her. For the first time since the early 2000s, Brad Pitt was no longer standing alone in the shadows of his own story. He had allies. He had proof. And he had motive. The next chapter wasn't just about survival. It was about reclaiming the past that was stolen from him. And as Hollywood insiders now whisper, the real story of Brad Pitt isn't the one we watched unfold for 20 years. It's the one that was hidden underneath.